On this episode of the Layover Live, Erin McNamara stops by to talk SEO during the pandemic. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 129 of the Layover Live, where we bring you the top article from the Layover each week. I'm Jason Swick, VP of Digital Marketing, joined by our in-house SEO expert, Erin McNamara. So, Erin, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, hope you're doing well. I know things are remote, and we'll be looking forward, again, as I've told others on the team, to seeing you back in the office soon. But I have got you here this week because our article of the week comes from eConsultancy, where it talks about travel brands inspiring confidence in the sector through SEO. And there's no better person to talk about SEO in our department, Erin, than you. So I wanted to bring you in to talk about things from a search engine optimization standpoint, because it's a really, really good channel to focus on moving forward. Now, it's been an unbelievably difficult time for travel. And I think it goes without saying that marketing has been completely disrupted with COVID. However, one of the channels that I think has been the most resilient and useful during this time is organic traffic. And that's one thing that we keep a close eye on here. Sure, it's taken a hit like everything else. You've seen that if you've seen our Data Insights Hub, or recently in our client portal, where we share a lot of those insights. But it has bounced back, and it's a nice channel to keep an eye on, because it really shows user intent. Now, although search traffic is down for most DMO sites still, overall traffic to search engines are not. So with more and more of us working from home and people are consuming content through search engines like they never have before, it's a good time to make sure that your organic game is in check. Now, I'd even bet that search is going to be even more ingrained in our lives after the pandemic, especially with all this time that we've had in our hands. Now, still keeping in mind that SEO gains typically take months and months to pay off, what you do now will pay dividends in the future. The visitors you work to attract today through search are likely to be highly qualified, and those who are eager to travel when the time comes. Now, even with the recent uptick in cases across the country as it relates to COVID, DMOs are still starting to move their focus back into marketing and thinking about marketing again, so they can stay ahead of the curve when travel demand returns. And as they do so, SEO will pave the way for that. So, Erin, I want to jump right into it with you and to talk about SEO. What kind of trends are you seeing in the organic search space right now during COVID and during recovery? This is a question that we get a lot about, is what trends and what things are happening. So maybe talk a little bit about what trends you're seeing in the space right now.
Yeah, so it's a little bit hard right now, because the trend is that it really just depends on where you are and the course of the virus for your region. Paul spoke on last week's Layover Live about the information that we've made available to our clients in regards to seeing your traffic compared, to other regions around the country and other destinations and all of that. But really, it comes down to, what does your specific destination look like? I mean, we have seen huge increases for destinations that have lakes and beaches and lots of cabins and mountains and vacation rentals and outdoor activities. And we've seen huge increases for them. But then those cities that have been hit hard by the virus, cities where it's not easy to, socially distance, and we've seen decreases as much as 75% year over year with organic traffic. And then on the good end, we've seen increases up near 90% in organic traffic year over year for those, those destinations that have all that outside, the outside beauty, like I mentioned, all of the outdoor activities and, ways people can socially distance. So I guess my trend is the trend is that overall organic traffic is down about 22% as of this week for all of our clients. It's about a 22% decrease, but we are seeing some, like I said, with 90% increases and some with 75% decreases. And it really is just about where you are and how you're being impacted. It also depends on site by site as well. We've seen sites that haven't been touched in 5 months. And obviously those aren't doing as well as those sites that took this as an opportunity to add a ton of new content and pertinent content and timely content, and are seeing, some of their updated pages in their, top 3 organic pages for the last 3 months. So So I guess the trend is there really isn't a trend, except that it depends on where you are. You could be seeing great
Yeah.
increases right now, and you could be seeing decreases, and it can change. As Paul discussed last week, you know, New York got hit really hard early on, and now they're in the recovery phase where some other cities are being hit much harder now than they were a few months ago. So
Yeah. Yeah, good points made there, Aaron. I think trends just in general are tough right now, right? I mean,
yeah,
we can see it across different keywords and different categories. That naturally happens, right? And to your point, it's the reason why we compiled a lot of the data that we compiled, right? The
yeah,
fact we've got access to a lot of different accounts allows us to be able to look at the thing as an industry as a whole, to be able to at least get some barometer of where things are at, right? So to look at the industry as a whole is still down 22%. That's still a far cry from where we were just a few months ago, when we were down
oh yeah,
68% as an industry, which is
absolutely,
insane. And to your point, it's going to bounce back differently depending on the area you're in. So I'd highly encourage you to talk to your SEO analyst out there, like Erin and her team, and Tracy's team as well, to be able to find out what things look like for your particular area. But one thing I want to expand on, you kind of mentioned some of the things too, like some of the categories of content that you guys have seen change and uptick and move, and it's a very fluid space right now. So what content then, Erin, should DMOs be creating to answer visitor questions related to health and safety, and then maybe any other content ideas that you can share as well, I think would be a common question or two that we get from clients as well.
yeah, absolutely. So in regards to health and safety, DMOs can highlight their city's health and safety measures, and that is at a higher level, like mask requirements, down to as granular as listing detail pages, listing how each property is stepping up in regards to health and safety. We've seen a lot of clients use the alerts module for this, front and center homepage. Hey, this is what we're doing. We've also seen some amazing examples of pages that are reassuring the visitor that we're ready for you. You'll, if you're watching, there's a couple safe, clean, ready. There's together pages, reopening, pledge and promise pages. I mean, we've seen DMOs really take this as their opportunity to not just help increase the visitation by telling people that, hey, we're doing everything we can, but also to be highlighting those things that are safe. Um, a DMO is doing a disservice if you go to their site and you have nothing looks different than it did 5 months ago. Because nothing is the same as it was 5 months ago. And so really kind of highlighting that health and safety. And I know it's really hard because it takes a lot of updates. I think in my 16 years in the industry, more so than any other time, you have to be on your site every single day updating content, because never before have we had a time that changes as much as it has.
Yeah.
Every single day, every single week is different. It could be better different. It could just be different. But, DMOs that are really highlighting, telling the visitors that masks are required in public spaces, indoor and outdoor, and, those folks that are updating their content regularly to help the visitor to know, am I going to just walk into craziness, or does the city have their stuff together? So we have been making a ton of new content recommendations over the last few months because, like I said, a
Okay.
stagnant site right now doesn't serve anybody. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's if you go to a site and you can't tell that things are different, you're wondering if is the content updated. If I go to the things to do page and the first thing you mention is these huge events, the annual events that are happening every year, that none of them are happening this year, you're doing your visitor a disservice. You need to update those pages that maybe before you had to update maybe once a year, maybe every other year, depending on what was happening. But you need to be in there updating your content frequently, and you need to be adding the content that people are looking for right now. So we have been using Google Trends a ton.
Mm-hmm.
We've obviously been using Google Search Console. It's been mentioned, I know, a lot here on the Layover. We've been using a ton of third-party tools and really just doing our research to see, what do people want right now? Because what they want right now is a mixture of what they wanted 6 months ago, but then also right now. So a few things we've recommended: drive-in movie theaters. That is a huge
Mm-hmm.
trending thing right now, and they're popping up everywhere. And what we're noticing is that there's really no online resource that lists where the drive-in movie theaters are. I've run searches in a lot of our cities, and you get these sites that look like they're 10 years old. They're not even listing the ones that I just read an article had opened because of all the COVID madness. So this is an opportunity for a DMO to be that resource, drive-in movie theater, resource, which sounds like kind of just a little thing that maybe 7 months ago the DMO wouldn't have wanted to touch. Like, you know what? I don't think somebody's coming on vacation here and going to a drive-in movie theater, but guess what? They are now. So let's give them the content that they're looking for now. Same thing as like virtual tours. This became really popular back in March and April for DMOs, and a few of the DMOs at the beginning that were a little bit hesitant to get into things that weren't putting heads in beds, as we like to say, are now seeing that right now, maybe that's not the most important thing. Maybe the most important thing is highlighting those partners. Maybe the most important thing is just those people that are researching vacations for later are coming to your site to do that research. So you want to be the resource there. So virtual tours. Another term that's trending is staycations. So, we always used to be like, these DMOs, we want people from outside of our city. We want people from outside of our city. Well, guess what? Right now, people in your city want to stay in your hotels and kind of treat it as a vacation. So create a staycation blog post. I know a lot of resorts and hotels are doing really cool things with social distancing classes at the hotels for visitors. So, a yoga class out on the grass where, people can properly socially distance, and, the water slides and all of these outdoor things that, staycations, like I said, maybe a year ago, the DMO would have just said, no, I don't want to do that. But now it's the term is increasing in search volume. There's just more interest there. Something we've talked about already, but the restaurants with outdoor patios, restaurants with takeout delivery. Not everybody wants to sit in a restaurant inside. Searches for that has increased quite a bit over the last 4 months. Camping and glamping phrases. Glamping has actually increased quite a bit. So, hey, I'm not normally a camping person, but I want to check out this glamping thing. I want to properly socially distance, but I want to go on vacation. So camping and glamping. As we prepare for the fall foliage, I know that a lot of our destinations offer driving tours for fall foliage, but this is going to be a big season for it as people are still trying to, socially distance, and fall driving tours. But pair those with, if I'm coming in from out of town and I'm going to do a fall driving tour, is there a cabin? Are there cabin rentals in the area that I can stay in? What about hikes? What about other things that I can do that are, that are safe? While I do this fall driving tour, to kind of bring that money in, bring the people in, and bring the money in as well. As I mentioned earlier, the vacation rentals, the cabins, the beach houses, if you don't have standalone pages for those things, you absolutely need them right now. You can't just bucket everything under accommodations. You've got to pull those out because people are looking for them. Cabin rentals, vacation rentals, those sorts of things. So pull those out onto their own page as a subpage under accommodations. Another thing that I thought was a really cool content idea coming from our sitemap analyst, Bryce, is something I've thought about doing, but he said, what about taking a working vacation? What about those folks that have been staring at white walls for the last 4 months, and they still might need to work, but their kids are home on summer vacation. They want to just go somewhere where they can sit on their outside patio with their laptop and work while watching the ocean, or right there on a lake, or in the mountains at a cabin with their family. And maybe they stop working at 2:00 in the afternoon and enjoy the trails with their family for the rest of the day. This whole idea of taking a working vacation that, maybe wasn't as popular, like I said, 7 months ago, but now we're seeing this trend of so many more people working from home and needing to get out. So, really kind of looking outside the box, I guess, of 7 months ago that this wouldn't have been a thing, but now we really need to start looking at some destinations already had pages for restaurants with outdoor patios because they're a gorgeous destination all year long. But people are even looking in Tucson in 110 degrees for restaurants with outdoor patios because it's just, people are ready to dine out, but they want to do it somewhere where they know is a little bit safer, and making that available and giving those partner referrals out is kind of what we're looking for right now.
Erin, I think it's a good section. I think to go back, and I feel like I have to take notes and going through that, because there's such good information that I think people can use coming out of that. Looking at these things that, the drive-in movie theaters, right? Those are popping up, finding these new pockets of opportunity, like outdoor restaurants and virtual tours. And again, a lot of us have done these things along the way, but the search terms pivot and change a little bit. The glamping you talked about, but I love the idea of taking this like work vacation. We've even had some people at Simpleview do that a little bit too, and in the fact that it, hey, listen, I'm working remotely. I'm going to pick up my office and I'm going to take it somewhere else. And when we think about health and safety, we oftentimes think about physical safety, but we should think about mental safety as well. And so a lot of people are taking opportunities like that to find another spot to work in, which is great. And so again, those trends, Google Trends is a really, really good thing. And I know your team uses it a lot. We've talked about it before, but it's a good way to find these pockets of opportunity for like those seasoned clients. Now, for a lot of the people that are working with you and Tracy and the teams on that side from an SEO standpoint, you guys provide a lot of these things on a regular basis, which is great. But there's, a lot of new clients or maybe people that just come on or aren't as in touch with their SEO game, especially as maybe we've shifted some of the responsibilities at a DMO that maybe we didn't have before because of recent changes in the world of travel. So, anything maybe, Erin, that new clients can keep in mind with specific areas of their site, things like events calendars. I know you touched on that a little bit, but maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll restate, I know I said it earlier, but the cities where the events traffic really drove a lot of their drive market traffic and traffic to their destination, and those events aren't happening this year, and they're not getting that traffic. But they have to keep their events calendar as updated as possible. Like I mentioned, in 16 years, I've never seen so much work fall on the DMO shoulders in this regard. But you have to be in there and updating those events and telling people when they've been rescheduled, when they've been canceled. Make sure that the user is aware of that. I have also been telling people, and they're not going to love it, but a lot of folks will update blog posts year after year. So I have a client that updates a summer festivals blog post every single year. It gets a ton of traffic every single year. It lists out 6 or 7 festivals that happen, from May through August. Now, this year, none of the festivals are happening. None of them. Now, I told them, hey, if you're not going to update this post, if you're not going to touch it, you better update the title to include 2019, because that page is still going to rank. People are still going to be looking to see if these events are happening, if they're being rescheduled. Obviously, best case scenario would be to update the top of those pages. I put it in bold red print. The events have been canceled for 2020. Links below will take you to the page for the updated dates or the information for when it will be updated, et cetera, et cetera. But really, you have to give the user the information. There was a client that got a little, got some mean messages after the 4th of July because they didn't update an old blog post they had about 4th of July events in the area. And it was clearly old information. It didn't say anything about social distancing. It didn't say anything about cancellations or anything. It was just all about these great 4th of July events they have in their area. Well, they didn't update it. And they got some messages that were like, hey, you're giving me bad information. You said no, we didn't say that was 2020. So I think going back to those old blog posts and updating them with dates, if the date isn't showing on your blog post, it should be. I know some clients have removed that because they haven't wanted to go back to old information and update it. So they don't want, a 2017 date to be on their blog post, but this would be the time to put those back on. This would be the time to put dates in old URL, not in the URL, in the title of the post. But if you're not going to update information, make sure the user knows it's not updated. But in any case possible, on that festival's landing page, you tell the user that each of those festivals have been canceled or that we're still waiting on a rescheduled date. That's because if the user isn't finding the information on the DMO site, they're going to find it somewhere. So another great thing to do there is to be linking out to other related content. So, hey, maybe this festival isn't going on, but finding a similar topic. If the festival was about was an outdoor type of festival, is there other outdoor related content you can link the user over to? Like, hey, this festival isn't going on, but guess what? There's still boat rentals available at the lake. So even though the festival surrounding that isn't happening, you can still rent a boat. You can still enjoy the lake for the weekend and look at all these cabin rentals we have. So it really falls. It's a lot of work right now. I know our DMO folks are just being worked to the bone right now, but a lot of them are seeing the returns. We're seeing. I mean, like I said, I have one client with their organic traffic is up 90%, and one of the pages that is doing so well is a page about one of the lakes in the area. They expanded the content on that page to include not just what can you do at the lake, what are the rentals, all of those things, but here's links to all of the vacation rentals near the lake and even some hotels within driving distance. And, so they're expanding that content. And it was, I think, the second or the third most visited organic page on their site last month. So it takes a lot of work, but the work, you'll get the return from that work right now.
Yeah, good stuff there, and advice again that again maybe a year ago we wouldn't have given that advice, maybe 6 months ago we wouldn't have given that advice, but things have changed, and so pages that may not have been important before, or advice that we may not have given before, may change now, and you have to be able to adapt. And I think that's one thing that we've learned a lot from this is being able to be agile and adapt to what's happening, and you provide some good examples there. So I know we're coming up to the end here, but I want to ask you one more question because this is something we get asked about a lot too. I know you keep a close eye on Twitter with and other social media outlets with Danny Sullivan and Barry Schwartz and all the updates, the guys that typically are out there updating and keeping an eye on what's happening with algorithm changes and things like that. So any new Google developments maybe in the last few months that DMOs should know about?
Yeah, it's funny. I just read an article this morning that somebody had asked Google, did you just make an update? And their response was, we are always making updates. So
yeah, they're not gonna be that blunt with it. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Sure. We are always making updates. Now they make thousands of changes to their algorithm every year. Probably more like hundreds of bigger changes, and not all of them impact the travel space. But they are always making changes, and we're seeing them right now. I have noticed with my clients. So the last time I was on the Layover, we talked about the no-click searches, the increase in folks running searches and then not clicking through to anything because Google is already answering their question right there. They have the people also ask boxes. They have, the answers right there. They have the featured snippets. They've got the carousel. They've got a booking widget. They have everything you possibly need right there on the search results pages. So people don't necessarily have to click through every time if the information they're finding is already right there, supplied by Google.
Right.
But what we tell people is you want to be on that page. You want to be in that featured snippet. So you need to be creating that timely content that people are searching for so that Google will scrape it, show it right there in a featured snippet, and folks will click through to your website. Now, a good thing we've noticed in all of this is that on some of the searches in regards to, DMOs and what people are searching for there, we're seeing them remove some of their information from the top of the page and display a COVID alert instead. Well, the good thing is the COVID alert is an inch, of your screen. And some of their other information they were displaying was, 11 inches down the screen before you would get to the organic results. So
right.
What we're seeing is actually some of our clients that were ranking number 1 or number 2 organically and weren't getting an insane amount of traffic because of the featured snippets. When they're removing those and putting the COVID warning, it's pulling up that organic result and more people are clicking on the organic result. So that's a good thing that we're seeing in some of these searches. Obviously, that's not long term. That's not going to last forever, depending on what happens with all of the COVID things. But another thing that it's not right this second, but in 2021, the next Google ranking factor is called Web Core Vitals. And it's something that Google's been talking about for a while, is taking into account more of the user experience on the page versus just the content. How does the user experience this page? AMP will no longer be required to show in top stories, which is kind of a big deal. But you will have to meet these Web Core Vitals requirements. That's not coming until 2021. They're talking about it a lot. A lot of people in the industry are talking about it. They told us they'd give us a 6-month heads up before that goes live. So you have plenty of time, but it really is the time right now to start thinking about how the users experience the website. And obviously, Jason, we have our CRO team at SimpleView that looks at that for our CRO clients, but everybody needs to start looking at that. When the page loads, what is that user experience like? Is the page just deathly slowly loading for you? If it's doing that for you, it's going to be doing that for other folks. So we will obviously have probably another layover about that when the time comes, but just something to keep in the back of your mind. I know COVID is always right here. Like, what are we doing for COVID? What are we doing for COVID? But
Right.
In the back of your mind, you really need to start thinking about the user experience, because that's going to be a much bigger deal in 2021.
Yeah, good stuff. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, because, if I remember back even to maybe 2014 or 15, seeing Rand Fishkin at PubCon Search Conference, he was talking about the importance of UX, and he was seeing a lot of indicators pointing to more user experience as part of the algorithm. What desired actions are people completing on your website, and showing that has a direct effect back to the search engines. Now, naturally, Google's never going to admit to most of this stuff, but when you start to see the results change, as you know, it starts to paint that picture. And now they've kind of officially come out, as you've mentioned, and said, hey, listen, we are going to start incorporating UX into this, and we have been incorporating UX into this. We're not going to officially roll this out for several months, but be mindful it's coming.
About it. Yep, it's coming.
You got it.
When they warn us about updates, that they're serious about it. When they've done it before with mobile first and some of the other things.
Yep, mobile first. Yep.
That was a warning. They told us ahead of time, and that was our warning to start thinking and start getting prepared and start really looking at things. So we have a while, but it's a good thing. I know this kind of took us off topic for the COVID stuff, but it really is something that we need to start looking at.
Yeah, it's still important though, right? Because this is going to come to an end at some point in time, and because SEO takes months to get traction and do those things, the stuff as I mentioned in the intro, that we plan for today will help us for tomorrow. And I've said this before countless times, as SEO is a staple for DMOs, and every single DMO should be working on SEO. It accounts, organic traffic counts for more than half of your traffic on average. You better have somebody shepherding that for you. But CRO to me comes a very close second with paid search, because with paid search and SEO driving that traffic into a website, you better make sure that those people, as the space is getting more competitive, as people are demanding more personalized experiences, you better make sure that the intentions of that site are balancing the user's experience. And we've got CRO is the way to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's A/B testing. Yeah.
And then them leave right away because it's a horrible experience. So SEO brings folks to your site, and then CRO is going to keep them there and have them
optimize for that experience.
Forms and absolutely.
Yeah. No, you got it. I think you're spot on with that. So, hey, Erin, thanks. This is really, really, really good information. And typically, a lot of our SEO type layovers are, and even at Summit, typically they're some of the most well attended sessions. And the reason is for some of the insights that you, Tracy, and team provide each and every time. So, thanks for coming on and sharing a lot of this stuff. It's very, very, very helpful.
Thank you, Jason.
You bet. And thanks for tuning in each and every week. If you're not subscribed, please do so now. We're also available on podcast through Spotify and iTunes if you like to consume things that way, as I do. It's a good way to be able to do that. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time, and have a great day.